Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the October 8th, 2013 Carver Board of Selectmen meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, some housekeeping first off. There are openings on the following committees: Audit Committee, Bike Path Committee, Business Development Commission, Carver Cultural Council, Carver Housing Authority, one state representative, Commission on Disability, Earth Removal Committee, a growers representative, Finance Committee, Local Housing Partnership Committee, Marcus Atwood trustees, Old Colony Regional Vote Tech School Committee, there's 2 positions there, and Town Building Study Committee. Please contact the Selectman's office for an application. Also, donations to the food pantry can be made at the Council on Aging or the Public Library, and additionally, Shaw's Mutual Bank, Rockland Trust, and the Frosty Dog are also set up to take whatever donations you can make. So, the need does not go away, so please be as generous as you can, and especially as we head into the holiday season here, it's imperative that we take care of our own. Okay, thank you. Next up, appointments with possible votes. And we have an update from the Plymouth County Commissioners. And Ms. Sandra Wright, who is not feeling well tonight, could not join us. So she has been capably replaced by our Plymouth County Treasurer, Mr. Thomas O'Brien. And Tom, it's a pleasure to have you back here in Carver again tonight.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman.
And if you could join us up at the dais here.
I could. I actually just received a text from the chairman, Dan Plata.
Yep,
He's pulling off Route 44 now.
okay.
I was hoping you might be able to delay us 6 minutes for him to get here, and then he and I would be speaking on behalf of the commissioners. It's only fair to have one of the commissioners, if that doesn't disrupt you too much.
Nope.
If it does, I'll start, but
Nope.
it's probably a good idea to wait for the chairman.
I think that we can extend that courtesy to Mr. Pilata, and we'll pass on to the next item of business. How's that?
Thank you very much.
Next up is a request for common victualler license, Carver Subway, Inc., Samir Patel. He's not here? Okay, we'll put that on hold as well. All right. Items for discussion and possible vote. Approval of Fire Department Safe Grant Fund and grant money, and that would be Chief Weston. Chief, you want to come up and enlighten us a little bit on this?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
A second?
Thank you.
Okay.
That was easy.
Chief, take the vote and then talk.
I appreciate that. Please vote. Just a little background. This is something we try to do annually as what we call a SAFE grant through the Department of Fire Services, and it allows us for a small amount of money, a little over $4,000, to buy fire pension supplies for all the kindergartners that come in. We had big tours today, and we have big tours Thursday, and so forth for our fire prevention program. There is no match required by the town. And we are eligible for the grant and would receive the grant. So I'd ask you to support that. And then also I do have one more update. So.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a second. Any further comments, questions, recommendations, concerns? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. What else did you have for us?
2 more small things. At your next Selectmen's meeting, which I might not be able to attend, you'll probably get another one in your packet, and it was to a pre-approval for an MIIA insurance grant, who is our insurance carrier. And this year we have applied to upgrade all our scene lighting on our brush breakers to LED type lighting. It's about $4,200. So we have got the grant in the past. We've bought in safety vests and gas meters. There is no cost match to the town. So if I'm not here, I would ask you to support that also, please. And
I don't think you'll meet any resistance to that.
Thank
What
you.
else?
And the last thing I have is, about 2 months back, I had approached the board that we were in the market for a Polaris UTV 6x6 vehicle, and we actually had applied for and received a grant from the Howard Maxim Foundation for $10,000 at that time. Since that time period, we were able to increase that grant for $15,000. We actually purchased a vehicle. It is at our station next door. And to date, we have received almost a total of $20,000 in private donations. With the total project, we anticipated the project coming in around $27,000 to finish it. So I just wanted to just publicly thank the people that had given to us and given to the fire department. We're over 2/3 of the way to our goal and putting the vehicle totally in service. And the project is moving on faster than I envisioned. And we've already been using it at training exercises. So I just wanted to pass that on to people. So
Do we need to put a shout out that we need another 7,000 to close the gap on that?
that would be nice. I appreciate it.
Okay, folks. Chief is looking for $7,000. Dig deep. All right,
Thank you. Any questions?
board members?
I've
anybody?
already been out and looked at the vehicle. It looks a very, very solid vehicle for those kinds of purposes.
I agree. Thank you.
Jack?
Perfect timing, Chief. We got the county treasurer here. Maybe they got some free cash.
They take good
push
care of
our
us.
way.
But they already treat us very well, so I won't ask for anything. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Selectman
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, next up, Chapter 61A, first right of refusal, 213 Meadow Street. Somebody to speak on this?
Comes Jack.
Mr. Hunter, your timing is perfect. Chapter 61A, first right of refusal on 213 Meadow Street?
Yes,
Come on down.
it'd be my pleasure. I guess I signed that, didn't I?
Yep.
Sure. I chair the 61A subcommittee, which is made up of the building commissioner, conservation agent, and the assessor. And we went over the property, and we're recommending you don't buy it. It's a house in a bog, maybe more than one bog, and it's pretty cost prohibitive. It's $500,000, 500 and change, I believe, $501,800. So I don't think we're in any position to think of buying that.
No. What's the acreage on that, Jack, do you know?
35 rings a bell. You're catching me off guard, Mr. Chairman.
Is there multiple building lots there? Is it
No,
divisible? No?
no, it's bog and a beautiful house. It's
Yeah.
like a chateau house, all set back. It's right near Edaville on Meadow Street.
Yeah,
It's a fairly new house.
okay.
I think it's about 8 acres of cranberry bog.
Is it? Yeah,
Is that the one way back in the bog?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
I make a motion that we decline it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to decline this. Any further discussion? Comments,
Is
concerns?
it- Can I ask Jack a question?
Of course.
It's gonna be sold, whoever buys it is gonna use it in the same condition,
Yes.
same type of
It's a-
property type?
I'm told it's a young man who grew up in Carver, lives in Wareham, and got married, and him and his wife are gonna
Yeah, I
rent.
recognize the name too, yeah.
Yeah, someone told, Ellen must have said that, because I don't know the name. Do you,
I don't
Mr.
know.
Ward?
I
Yeah.
don't know. No, I don't know.
But he is
I
gonna,
may, I haven't heard the name, so I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I'm all set.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other further questions, comments, or concerns?
I'll make a comment.
Okay.
It looks like over the next couple of years, we're gonna have more of these because of the price decline in the cranberry market, yep.
See, now I was thinking it was good news, Mr. Ward, because you had a young family wanting to grow
Yeah,
cranberries.
we do. We need new young people.
Right.
Every meeting I go to, they're all old gray-haired guys or bald guys. So
Well, we know which
Yeah.
one you qualify under.
we need, we
I
need
do
new
too.
young people.
Is this going into foreclosure? Is this what this is?
No. I met the wife of
Mr. Christopolsky.
I met the wife a couple times. Elaine was with me, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
they have there was a PNS,
Right.
so it's not going to.
No, they're just selling it. They're moving out.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for the viewing audience, when there are certain tax classifications that agricultural our properties can enjoy. There are a number of threshold requirements that there are, but this Chapter 61A refers to Mass General Laws, Chapter 61A. And it sets out the parameters for preferred tax status. It's a statute, intended to help sustain agriculture in the state. When one of the provisions of Chapter 61A says that in return for this preferred tax status, before someone can sell off to another party, the host municipality that surrendered taxes gets the right of first refusal on the purchase of the property. And so, that's the question before the selectmen tonight. Do you want to pony up $500,000 plus, or not? And it appears that it'll stay in 61A status anyway, so.
Okay,
Thank you,
I
Mr.
just,
Chairman,
just a little
everyone
bit-
here knew what they were talking about, but sometimes we forget
Yeah,
our
no.
audience.
No, I understand the concept and everything,
Excellent.
I just didn't understand what was
Excellent.
precipitating the move to begin with.
Just a sale,
Okay,
just a sale.
all right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Hearing none? Seeing none? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to recuse myself.
That will be 4-0-1.
No, 400.
4-0-0. Thank you. All right, Mr. Pilata made it here in record time. I'm gonna have to check with the officers on duty, and they give me the radar. Give me the radar reading on that coming from Route 44. Dan, nice to see you. Mr. Pilata, for those that don't know, is chairman of the county commissioners, so. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming here tonight.
Thank you
and,
for having us. My name is Dan Pilot, I'm chairman of the commission. We have been working diligently since the two new commissioners took over in January. We thought we're trying to hit all the towns to let you know what we're doing, seek some assistance from our towns, and try and change the funding, formula for the county right now. What the county does, for those of you who are not familiar with the county, is the county is responsible for the registry of deeds, which you are all aware of. We're also responsible for the financial oversight of the health group, which I think Carver is a member of, the Mayflower Health Group. And
No, we're not
Oh,
participants.
you're not? I'm sorry. You're with
Gateway,
Gateway,
yeah.
I'm sorry. And the Plymouth County Retirement Board. The county treasurer is responsible for doing the numbers on both of those. We are also,
Excuse me a minute, sir. Excuse me, can we move that outside, please? Thank you.
what we're trying to do is become the regional agency that the county once was. We recognize that the county needs to serve you better. The county has not been doing that in the past couple of decades, as the county has been taken apart by the legislature. As the county has been taken apart by the legislature, they've left a major funding problem. You're still getting taxed every time that you have a real estate transaction, but 89 cents of that, 89.875?
89.625.
625 goes to the Commonwealth, and 10% stays behind to run the county operations. We're trying to get that changed. We have a bill before the legislature, and we're going to ask you to support that bill tonight. It's a very important bill for the future of the county. You're paying the tax, you're just not getting the benefit of the tax. So if you want your tax dollars to stay in Plymouth County, we urge you to support the bill. The other things that we're working on is we're working on a regional power purchase program, which involves conservation power purchasing that Commissioner Hanley's been working on. And we have just been awarded a grant for a dredge, which doesn't help Carver, but we're trying to do a regional dredge, inland water dredge for ponds that have the weed problem, and a saltwater dredge to model after the Barnstable County program. We did receive a grant for the saltwater dredge this year, and we have started down that path with the coastal communities. From there, I think the treasurer wants to say a few words of interesting note, and I'm sure, because I'm literally just drove 3 hours from the little town of Rowe to get here, I'm sure I missed a few things, which is unlike me not to be prepared, but I didn't have 5 minutes to even stop. But John served on the County Charter Commission.
They know me as Jack.
Jack.
You say John, they don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah. On the County Charter Commission, and we have that bill before the legislature too. And that has the same funding request that we're also simultaneously doing. So that being said, I'm gonna ask the county treasurer to do a quick few minutes. He likes to be long-winded. I'd love to see you gavel
You
him.
have 15 minutes.
Are you gonna update us on the pension and healthcare liabilities, Mr. O'Brien?
We have lots of updates, so if I could, first of all, thank you very much for having us. For those that missed the introduction earlier, Tom O'Brien, I'm the Plymouth County Treasurer. I'm very proud of the fact that I was the state representative for the town of Carver, Precinct 1 for a number of years, serving up on Beacon Hill. I'm pleased to see that you did not take down the resolution that I signed out in the hallway, so thank you for leaving that up. When we inaugurated this town hall, I was the state rep at the time. It's great to be back here in front of the Board of Selectmen, because we know that if any community appreciates regionalization, it's the town of Carver. You folks are ahead of the curve in many respects, and we think that the county is a great opportunity for you folks to expand on some of the things you're looking at. Let me just, if I could, condense the chairman's thoughts and offer a few points that might be helpful to you. First of all, one of the things the county has not done very well over the last few years is to let people know what we do. And people don't appreciate the bargain that they have in Plymouth County government. These new commissioners, Commissioner Dan Pallotta, Commissioner Greg Hanley, joined Commissioner Wright in January. They've done more in 9 months than I'd seen done in the last 7 years. It's been a remarkable team, a good effort. But we have the finest registry of deeds in New England. If you haven't been to the Plymouth Registry of Deeds, please go, with satellite offices in Brockton and in Rockland. We own and operate 3 district courthouses in Wareham, Hingham, and Brockton. We do the financial management for the Mayflower Municipal Health Group. We do a ticket processing program, and we do a number of bulk purchases. People say, wow, that's pretty good. Well, what does that all cost? Well, what's interesting is you know what you pay in federal taxes. You maybe not be getting your money's worth the last 8 days, but you know what you pay. You know what you pay in state taxes. You know what you pay in town taxes. But what do you pay per resident in Plymouth County for the operation of county government? I just listed a few of the highlights of what we do. So when I go out and ask this, and I won't ask you folks because I know you know the answer. I won't ask, but when people hear how much it costs to operate and run Plymouth County, they're like, oh my goodness, what a bargain. So when I tell them we do the registry of deeds, we do the courthouses and all these other things, it costs $2.73 per person per year in direct taxation for the operation of Plymouth County government, less than a gallon of unleaded gasoline. You are getting the best bargain going. Now, we have some advantages. We don't have to provide public safety. We don't have to educate the children, so we get cost efficiencies. But it's a real value, and we've always appreciated Carver getting that. One of the things I didn't mention that we do is we have a fire control airplane, which goes up at certain times and watches out for fires. Your town and your chief have been very supportive of that effort, and it has saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in property damage in the town of Carver over the last few years. Well, when we tell people we have a fire control airplane, if you saw it, it's a vintage plane. They say, well, that must cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to own, operate, run, fuel. And I've actually been up in it, own, operate, fuel, and fly 30 to 40 days a year. We do it for $17,000 a year. So you're really getting your bang for the buck. However, for these commissioners, that's not enough. And as Commissioner Pallotta had said, they've undertaken a number of initiatives. One thing that they've done is file legislation. So they tasked me and others to file pieces of legislation. They filed 6. I won't bore you with the details of all of them, but we are here this evening to ask for a vote on one in particular. And we think it's a pretty easy one. We actually have been traveling around to the towns and been getting unanimous support. It is, as Commissioner Pallotta touched on briefly, it's really to address the inequities that exist in the deeds excise funding formula. So most people understand that when they go to the Registry of Deeds, they pay a deeds excise tax. What they don't understand is that money doesn't stay here in Plymouth County. They're shocked. Really? It doesn't stay in Plymouth County? But Treasurer O'Brien, how is that possible? I pay it in Plymouth County, at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, in a building owned by Plymouth County, with employees paid for by Plymouth County, whose benefits are paid for by Plymouth County. Why isn't that staying here? Well, interestingly enough, it used to. The funding mechanism used to be split 50-50, 50 to the Commonwealth and 50 to the county. That seems fair. Unfortunately, over the years, that's degenerated. It's degenerated at the disadvantage of the county. So as Commissioner Paulada mentioned, the Commonwealth takes 89.375, and the county gets to keep 10.625. Well, we just don't think that's a fair appropriation. So we filed legislation that switches that dynamic a little bit, and we're asking for 42.5 cents. We're still giving the state 57.5 cents. That seems fair. But we're saying, listen, this is paid for by the inhabitants of Plymouth County. It was originally intended to stay in Plymouth County to allow us to do these regional things we're talking about. We really need to fix that. So we're asking for a vote from you folks tonight, if possible, to support House Bill 2516, which is this deeds excise funding change. Again, we've been going out and getting unanimous support for that because it makes sense. Let's keep the money here in Plymouth County. Again, that's House Bill 2516. I could go over the other pieces, but I've been given a time limit, so I won't. I'll just talk quickly about some of the initiatives that Commissioner Paulada touched briefly on, and then talk about retirement and health group.
Before you hit retirement, I do want to, when he talked about,
Please use the microphone.
sorry,
It was my turn, Mr.
I
Chairman.
know. Two things.
Let you talk.
We're both elected. Two things that Tom touched on, but need to be tweaked just a little bit is the Registry of Deeds now has a program where we'll train your assessors on how to use all the systems that the registry have. We just set up a training classroom, and it's been wildly successful. I encourage you to call the Registry of Deeds for your assessing department or any departments that need to look up parcels in your town. It's a very important service to be able to understand how the computerized system works. The other thing that Tom talked about briefly was the courthouses. You're at the Wareham District Court. The Wareham District Court is constantly on the closure list. And it's always, if Wareham closes, I don't need to tell you what kind of a problem it's gonna be for you to get your court business done up in Brockton or in Plymouth. It's a long drive. You're gonna be talking overtime for your police, an inconvenience for the whole 9 yards. So we're working on trying to get Wareham not only to stay open permanently, but we're working on trying to get the building renovated. All the courthouses that we inherited from the previous commissioners are in deplorable condition, and it's the focus of this group of commissioners to get those buildings back to snuff.
I don't want his time to intrude on my time, Mr. Chairman, so please subtract that 4 minutes from my allotted time. Because had the chairman been patient, as I was during his presentation, I would have looped around to that topic about the Registry of Deeds training program, which is coming up. So my presentation was talk about what the county does, legislation, highlight the new initiatives initiated by the commissioners, and then wrap things up. So we'll get back to that presentation. About the new initiatives that they've undertaken, the chairman talked about, we have an energy initiative. Commissioner Hanley has spearheaded it, but it doesn't happen without the support of all the commissioners. We have a little brochure we believe that would be of interest to you folks. Please feel free to call the county. The chairman will pass those out to, I think we actually need a few more. A real chance to save money, pretty easy to do that if you belong to the Plymouth County Energy Collaborative. So we know your town administrator, town manager will be looking into that opportunity. He also touched briefly about the solid waste initiative. We believe there's a real chance to save money doing regional trash hauling and trash disposal. It's a fledgling enterprise that we're undertaking, but we certainly encourage Carver to take a look at that. The third item that he mentioned was our saltwater dredge. Not as big an advantage for Carver. However, Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Paulada and Commissioner Hanley have said, well, this may lead into some freshwater dredging. So we did receive a grant of $250,000 to begin that process. Barnstable County has a saltwater dredge operation, very successful. We're going to model on that and really begin to save the coastal community some significant money. And then, of course, the fourth point I was going to talk about was this training program at the Registry of Deeds. So your assessing office, your planning office really should take advantage of that. It's Thursday morning, every other Thursday. Please feel free to call the registry if you want that information. The other two things briefly that the chairman mentioned, Chairman O'Donnell asked me to talk about briefly. One, and there's often confusion about OPEB obligations and retirement obligations. So let's talk about the retirement obligations. Plymouth County retirement system has actually been one of the best in the Commonwealth and in New England. I'm the chairman of that, so I'm a little biased. However, I can tell you that our small little county retirement board has outperformed the state 5 of the last 6 years. That's pretty remarkable when you realize when I started, we were at $550 million. We're now at $750 million. The state was at about $5 billion. The state's still at $5 billion. So our performance has been significantly better over those years than the state, and we have more constraints than they do. So we're pretty proud of that. There is a significant funding challenge, though, that faces all of the communities, and you folks have received some early numbers on those funding challenges. What happened was the federal government changed the mortality tables. Here's a big surprise to everybody in this room. People are living longer. So the federal government said, well, you have to expect that people are going to live longer, therefore you have to have more funding. And you have to do that in fiscal 2015. So the Retirement Board did let communities know that there would be sizable increases in 2015. Some communities funded them, some didn't. We've done our best. We've listened to our communities. We actually did something I don't think is the most fiscally prudent thing to do, but it was asked for by our communities, and that was to extend our funding schedule. So we were to be fully funded by 2030. We were one of the few that would have been funded in that time frame. However, because of what would have been a higher rate of assessment in 2015, our communities asked us to extend to 2034. The Retirement Board did that begrudgingly to help communities. However, please understand it's a short-term fix. If you extend out the mortgage, you're adding to the cost overall. And as communities are realizing that they've done that, some are saying, maybe we should have paid early. So I am here to tell you that each individual member of the Plymouth County Retirement System can in fact pay separate from the other members. So if Carver's one of those few that actually wants to pay early, you can. I know it's very difficult, I know it's unlikely, but that opportunity does present itself. I would love to come back at another time because the connection with the county is really through me, and just talk about retirement, because we're really here to talk about the initiatives of the county commissioners. But I would love to go into detail with that.
You're gonna give up airtime?
I'm going to give up airtime to you, Mr. Chairman, to come back and talk particularly the details, because I can see some questions coming. Just briefly, I did want to talk about your OPEB obligations. That's other post-employment benefit obligations. Those are obligations that you have as an individual community. Plymouth County is not involved in that, particularly where you're not part of the Mayflower Municipal Health Group. I do want to report that the Mayflower Municipal Health Group has been one of the most successful, if not the most successful, joint purchase groups, not just in Massachusetts, but in the country. I've been asked to travel around the country to talk about what we're doing, and as people learn that over the last 2 years, we've had 0% increases in our healthcare assessments to members of our group, and our average increase over the last 6 years has been 4.55. People are scratching their heads and saying, how do you do that? Well, I'm happy to come back at another time and talk about our secret if that's something you're interested in. The secret is, quite candidly, we're very nimble, we have a great team, and we have a great treasurer. The last part I just added in for fun. I'm happy to answer particular questions, but you really need to appreciate the significant work of the county commissioners in these initiatives that they're undertaking. Regionalization is the wave of the future. Travel around the country to any of the other states, and you realize county government plays a bigger role. Communities in New England are oftentimes reluctant to give up some of their control, and we understand that. Nobody better than these commissioners. But during difficult economic times, sometimes it makes sense to consolidate. Sometimes it makes sense to save money. We want to be here to help you do that. So in addition to looking forward to a vote on House Bill 2516, we do want to let you know, and the commissioners have tasked me everywhere I go to say, how can we help? We really want to help all of the 27 communities. A lot of good things, but there's even more we want to do. So we appreciate your time. We thank you for your forbearance, and both of us are here to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
For you, Mr. Chair. For House Bill 2516, how did you come up and derive the number $42.50?
42.5%?
42.5%.
So it's 42.5% of every dollar we generate.
Okay,
So our thought process was this. It used to be 50-50 back in the day. Well, we figured it was probably a little bit much to ask for 50-50, even though we think that's fair. In the 1980s, they took 7.5% for the operation of the correctional facilities. They took that out of that percentage.
Yeah.
So since they now operate the jail, we felt it fair to leave that 7.5% with them. So we figured 57.5% with the state, 42.5% to the county.
makes sense, thank you.
It does, actually.
You might also want to know that you might, I got it. You might also want to know that the state currently is not fully funding the retirees of the sheriff employees that they took. We had a meeting, I think it was here in Carver, where we actually drew a line in the sand with the state on a payment. That is an ongoing problem that has to be resolved too. It's one of our pieces of legislation, what's called the maintenance of effort of sheriff's employees. They were county employees. Now they're county retirees that the state has taken over, but left us with the retirement payment, but not the current employees to pay into the system. So they essentially left us with the mortgage and they took the asset. The jail is worth probably about $180 million. It had a bond on it of about 110 at the time of the takeover. The state took that and remortgaged it as soon as they took it to provide cash to the state. You paid for that jail. The state didn't pay for that jail, you paid for it. So we're trying to put the pieces back together. You got a really hard bunch of commissioners working their tails off to try and put the county back together so that we once again can serve you.
And just to follow, if I might, Mr. Chairman, through you, the bill number for the maintenance of effort that the chairman's talking about is House Bill 3363. So if you wanted to take a vote to support that bill tonight too, we'd call that the trifecta. We could pick a third one for you to support. The easiest one is the commissioners have filed another bill to allow Plymouth County to have a stabilization fund, just as the towns have a stabilization fund. We're not allowed to do that statutorily, so this simply would give us the right to save for down times. That House bill number is House Bill 1829, which allows Plymouth County to have a stabilization fund.
Say that again.
So that one is to allow us to have a stabilization fund.
Oh, the number.
And it's House Bill 1829. You know what? The chairman has asked me to make sure we had this presentation available. Don't pull the mic until I'm done. I'll turn it over.
Is that copies of all the legislation?
This is a copy of the legislation and the sponsors of the legislation. The other point I think the chairman was going to make is that we've asked other counties to join us, and they have.
Yeah.
So the other counties are joining us, but these commissioners and their treasurer, who they make work even harder than themselves, has taken the lead role on getting these things passed.
Through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Would
ma'am.
it make sense for us to read through these and then vote on them at the next meeting?
That's fine.
Where it's not listed on the agenda.
Yeah, I would agree.
Excuse me?
Yeah, it's not
I
listed.
would
on the
agree.
To vote, yeah.
That'd be great. One of the bills you'll find in there is a transfer of $10 of a recording fee. In 1981, if you recorded something at the Registry of Deeds, you paid a $10 fee, and the county got $10. Today, you pay $77, and the county gets $10. So needless to say, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is bleeding you and us dry, and we're not trying to pull the wool from them. We're just trying to tilt the scales just that teeny-weeny bit, so
Back
that
to
we can have some funding in our coffers so that we can then launch some regionalization.
Do you have anything with English descriptions of what the bills are?
We can email it.
That way there, when we put it on our next agenda, if the citizens want to,
Copies of the bills.
yeah, if you could
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah,
that would
we'll
be a big help, and if you can get them to Elaine, that would be a big help, okay? And we can make them
Absolutely.
available at the next meeting, so people know what we're talking about.
We'll make sure to do that. The one that is the most timely would be that one on the deeds excise. We are trying to push that through, so if you could make that a priority at your next meeting, that would
Sure.
be great.
Be happy to.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Schultz.
if I may, I have a little bit of a concern with the bill that 2516, and I guess I just don't know the answer to the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're asking to take more money away from what the state gets when deeds are recorded at the registry, how does that affect the state's Community Preservation Act funding? Because my understanding is that state matching funds to towns come solely from the money used.
That comes from recording fees. There's a
Correct.
$20 of the 77 is community preservation.
Okay.
So the 10 would be coming from the state's portion, not the community preservation.
The state's portion is the Community Preservation Fund portion.
No, the state's getting 67 of the 77. Community preservation is 20 of the 67. So the community preservation fund's not gonna be
The
affected.
the state's Community Preservation Fund will not be
When
affected.
when we, and you can correct me if I go down the wrong
I
path
think-
here.
My question is
The answer
very
to her
simple.
question is yes.
The
Yes,
state's
okay.
Community Preservation Fund will be affected.
Will not
Will
be
not.
affected.
Not
My
be
question was,
affected.
will
No.
not be affected.
Thank you.
So I get to sometimes be the interpreter for the chairman, which is a lot of fun. The short answer to your question is it will absolutely not be affected because that's under a separate paradigm of funding. which is why we didn't touch that other paradigm, and we've gotten universal support for this, because it's deeds excise only. Now, what's unique about this opportunity and why it's timely is deeds excise revenues are coming in better than projected for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so they will still be able to meet projections if they allow the county to retain, and that's all we're talking about, retain a portion of the deeds excise. It will have absolutely no impact on the Community Preservation Act, which, as you know, I was one of the 3 lead sponsors of. So I wouldn't support any legislation that had
Thank you.
anything to do with the Community Preservation Act.
Thank you, Tom.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I may, a question, are these bills gonna die on December 31, or what,
No, it's a good question, and fortunately, I spent 10 years on Beacon Hill. I like to say I did my time.
that's why I
You
looked
can,
at you when I asked the
you,
question.
you can take that however you think, but it is a 2-year legislative cycle, and we're in the first of that 2 years. However, it will be challenging after July 30th of next year to get any of these done. However, as is always the case when you file a number of pieces of legislation, there are 1 or 2 that get attention. The 2 that we filed that have the most attention are the deeds excise component and the one on the maintenance of effort. It's gotten attention from our constituency because it makes sense. It's very easy to explain. It's a fairness issue. We're not being greedy in what we're asking for, so we have a lot of support for those 2 pieces. I expect those to move before the others will, but we certainly are under the gun, just trying to get things done by July 30th.
All set? Well, I want to thank you gentlemen very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
If you can send that stuff over to Elaine, we will make sure that that gets on our agenda for the next meeting. We will address that accordingly.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your questions and your
All right.
time.
Good to see
Great
you
to see
again, Dan.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike served on the advisory board of the county for a long time, so I was
Oh,
chairman of the
all
advisory
right,
board.
but Tom shook everybody's hand, so we know. Yeah, going down the tube now, yeah.
I have more years of practice.
And believe it or not,
Oh, you
Mr.
can
Pilata
tell
used
the
to be a selectman at
politician.
one time.
I was a selectman for 6 years.
Dan, it's a good thing you have Tom running interference for you. That's all I can say.
Thank you,
Good
everybody.
night.
Good night. Thank you, guys.
Michael, the guy from Subway. Can we go back to Subway?
The request for the common victular license, Carver Subway, Inc. Samir, did I say that correctly? Please come on up. Identify yourself and let everybody in the world know why you're here, okay?
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samir Patel. I want to apologize for my appearance. I did not know what I was getting myself into. I would have dressed a little bit appropriate for tonight. I'm here. I'm actually a Subway franchisee, and I'm trying to open a Subway restaurant in the great town of Carver. It's been challenged, and I've been challenged. A lot of people are saying, "What are you getting yourself into?" But I think I like challenges, so I went ahead and pursued it. So hopefully we open up by November 21st. I'm sorry, November 1st. So, hopefully.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Can you tell us a little bit about it, Samir? Where's the location?
Yes, sure. It's actually on the 96 North Main Street, which is in the plaza of Honeydew,
Okay.
next to Cornerstone Pub. It's right down there off of 44. I have seen like the Cisco and all that stuff coming around. I think it's a great opportunity, lots of future. So hopefully I could feed some people around here and then make some money off of it. All about the money at the end.
You're honest.
I am,
We
yes.
appreciate your honesty,
Thank
okay?
you.
Nobody goes into business to lose money, right?
Not really.
Okay, well, I think you'll find that the town of Carver has been pretty supportive of the businesses
It
that come
has.
into the town. We'd like to see everybody succeed. So you said November 21st is the...
November 1st, actually. I have received all my deliveries in on yesterday, actually.
Okay.
My contractor is very confident, and I have confidence in him. I trust him. He has done work for me over at a hotel in Middleborough. So, I mean, he's good at it. So he said about 3 weeks, so hopefully he's end of this month.
So this isn't your first rodeo in the business world?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
And I understand you're gonna run a special on November 21st?
Sure.
A turkey, cranberry sauce, and
Uh,
stuffing sandwich?
I could make it happen. I have pretty good in with the Subway franchise, so I think I can make it happen.
Any questions by the members of the board? No comments? Concerns? Hearing none.
This can't be that easy.
Hearing none.
We like business.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Once we get you in, that's it.
All right, that's good.
Hearing none, all those in
Not
favor,
leaving
please say
anytime
aye.
soon.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Appreciate it. Thank
Unanimous.
you.
Best of luck to you.
I appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you so much.
And we'll be looking forward to stopping in and tasting
No
some
problem.
of that
Anytime.
delicious
I'll have specials
cuisine.
in anyway for the grand opening, so
Okay.
I see you all.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Your next job will be as a stand-up comedian.
No problem.
With the other two.
Oh, the county treasurer and
Between the
commissioner?
three of them.
All right, change of special town meeting date. We unfortunately are running out of time to conduct this on October 28th, and our backs are against the wall. So the recommendation is to move this to November 12th. Gives us another 2 weeks to get everything put together.
Mr. Chairman, it was, the town accountant made it known that she needs to have the state to approve the closeout of last fiscal year, fiscal 13, so we can, our ending balance from that fiscal year will be certified as free cash and available for appropriation, actually transfer at the special town meeting. The timing of that is still a few days away, and it just could not fit the October 28th schedule, so the alternate date is November 12th, Mr. Chairman.
Is that going to give us enough time, Jim? I mean, we don't want to be
I
trying to
believe it.
squeeze a square peg through a round hole.
No, I believe it will. There are some, financial issues in North Carver Water District. That's the, is gonna require some form of a tax subsidy. There are some other larger questions. We've spoken about public safety. We've spoken about public buildings and the like. I think some of those things have been vetted already in public. The financial issues, aside from the North Carver Water District, I think are quick, are quick reads, and you can make your value judgments on them, I think, in good order.
Okay, so you figure we have ample time then to get
I do,
everything? Okay.
I do, yeah.
Any comments by the board?
I'll make a motion that we set Tuesday, November 12th for the special town meeting date.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Concerns, recommendations?
No problem.
Sarah? No. All right. Hearing none? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. We'll move it to the 12th.
Now
of
we need a
November.
date for, final date to turn the articles in. Is that on here?
Next Tuesday, the 15th would work for me, if that's okay. Monday.
Tuesday, the 15th of October?
We've got, I believe we have, most of them in. I know
Put
there's.
together already? 'Cause
There will
we-
likely, yes,
Yeah.
there will likely be discussion tonight. If we haven't made the article text, we have placeholders because we know what needs have to be addressed, Mr. Chairman.
Because we also have to weigh in on them as well, too.
That is
We
correct.
have to review them as the Board of Selectmen, so.
Right.
So the deadline will be
Next Tuesday,
October 15th.
Yes,
4 PM.
We need to take a vote on that.
why not?
Make a motion, we have October 15th at 4 o'clock. The deadline for submitting articles for the special town meeting.
I'll second that.
Should we be concerned with the availability of the school? Dan just pointed that out to me. For the 13th, the 12th, I mean?
Has anybody checked with the school to make sure that,
I'm afraid I haven't.
Oh, you've already done it?
No, he
No,
hasn't.
I haven't,
Okay.
so I will. Didn't think of that.
how does that impact us now? Well, we have to put this on hold.
I suggest, Mr. Chairman, we go through with it, and if the school can accommodate it, there's no further action that's needed.
They
If we
get
have a-
contingent upon the
Yeah,
Right.
approval of the school.
sure.
Okay. Or the correct coordination with the school. Everybody satisfied with that?
Except now you gotta vote on the, accepting the articles.
Yeah, that's the motion on the floor, right?
We have a motion on that. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further?
What's the motion and the second on?
You made the
Just
motion,
to
Jack.
set the deadline for the
Right.
October
Yeah,
15th,
right.
4 p.m.
October
Right.
15th.
Do we feel comfortable enough that although that is not on the agenda, that it falls under the change of the special town meeting date?
Well, when we talk about town meetings, Mr. Chairman, and we often talk about the four corners of articles and what's the purpose and intent. This certainly fits within
Okay.
those parameters. I'm very comfortable with that.
Okay, all right. All right, we have a motion and a second then. Any further comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. The 15th is the deadline, 4 p.m., to submit any articles for the town meeting.
Just as a point of information, Mr. Chairman, I had a finance team meeting last week in-house, and, we laid out our fall agenda and all the deliverables that have to be made, including a tax classification hearing, which we are tentatively suggesting that November 19th, Tuesday, November the 19th, be the date for your tax classification hearing before the selectmen.
Is that a regularly scheduled? Board of
It's a
Selectmen
regularly
meeting?
scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting, yes.
All set?
Yeah.
Okay, next up, discussions relative to funding police personnel and capital projects and possible special town election. Is there somebody here to speak on this? Is that you, Jack, or?
Yeah, I was trying to find a mechanism where we could fund additional police personnel, and it would have to involve a special election, but I think from looking from the schedule here, where we didn't act on it at our last meeting, is that beyond us now, Jim? That we couldn't fit in the special election?
The town clerk is here. I'll lean on her for some advice.
So from the from the special town meeting, you need to have it within 90 days for a special town election. And it's 35 days to get from the time that you submit the question to us in order to schedule a special town election. So, you could still do it. It's whether, when you submit the question.
Yeah, and the other thing is I didn't want it to impact setting of the tax rate. I didn't want it to delay that, so you generally have it on a Saturday. So
Right, and I don't know if I would change that. I don't know if I would recommend changing that schedule on having it on a Saturday.
no, I wouldn't either,
Yeah,
because everyone's used to vote.
exactly.
First of all, we need to know, is it possible, what's the date we could have a special, and then we have to discuss among ourselves whether we want to go forward with that.
Well, I guess there's a couple of questions. One is, what is the last day that you need to have your figures for the tax rate and so forth? So you want to work back from that, I would imagine?
Well, last year we had a special town meeting on December 6th,
Mm-hmm.
and we still had time to do that, so.
You,
I know everything falls around Thanksgiving and that kind of,
it can work both ways. You can schedule a special town election. You could submit the question to us by the end of this week. You could vote on that tonight if you wanted to. A couple of things you would want to consider is if it's, is it for a Prop 2.5? Is it for a debt exclusion?
it would be a Prop 2.5,
Okay. So you need to appropriate the monies,
yes.
and you would have to have a meeting after that, I would imagine, to appropriate the monies.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't know if you'd be able to do that in time for what you're trying to do for the taxes. So if you have a special town meeting now and you appropriate the money at the special town meeting, and then you have the election, if it passes at the special town meeting, it could fail at the election, or vice versa. Those are the risks that you take. There is a cost involved in running a special town election, of course, as well. So
Well, let's see
it's
what,
there. The options are there. The options are there. Both can occur. You have to do it within the 90 days. It's just you'd have to work back from the date that you're trying to get your figures in for the taxes.
yeah, I don't want to impact, I don't want to negatively impact
Yep.
the setting of the tax rate, getting the bills out, so.
We would need 35 days' notice to do to do a special town election from the date that you submit the question to us. So, or
I
questions.
think Mr. Purcell has something to
Mr.
add
Chairman,
to
the, if the special town meeting precedes the election, municipalities customarily make contingent appropriations. That they appropriate X number of dollars contingent upon, the ballot question winning at an election. So, you could pick that up that way. Monday, December 9 would be probably the drop dead date. I think that falls within that 35-day time period that that Ms. Doyle is mentioned. That would be pretty much, the end, at the end date, because we've got to, as you well know, Mr. Franny, we've got to get our tax rate certified. It could probably be done in the same week, but we've got work to do with, the assessors queuing up their software to get to the, to the tax collector's office, et cetera, et cetera. But we could get the tax bills out by December 31 if an election were held no later than December 9. So it's within the, it's not a commentary on, whether or not we should proceed with an override, but I'm just saying from a procedural standpoint, it's probably achievable if that was, the direction that the board wanted to go in. How, you think that's right?
Yes, yep. And just another thing to keep in mind, you have holidays during that time as well. Just before that, you have Thanksgiving and Hanukkah. And so there's several holidays within that time. I don't know how you want to work around those as well. But something to consider. People,
Oh, first of all, we have to see if members of the board are in favor of it.
Yeah.
If they're not, then it's a moot point, so.
one other thing to consider, if you would, is if you hold a special town meeting and then the election, if it fails at the special town meeting and we've already scheduled the election, we still have to hold the election. So just to keep that in mind. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Franny, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to have a discussion with the rest of the selectmen. Are you in favor of moving forward, putting it in as a Prop 2.5 override as long as it fits within the parameters, or would you just as soon table it?
Could we first have an explanation of what it is?
Well, that's part of the whole discussion. Would you want to add 1, 2, or 3 police officers?
And a permanent override to do this? Is that what you're
Yes.
requesting?
Yeah.
I'm very confused. May I, Mr. Chair? I'm very confused because my understanding is the police chief is not asking for this. He's asking to present us with a cumulative plan where he builds this into his budget.
That's what I thought.
That's my
I
understanding.
feel he presented a plan to us, and it's up to us to come up with the funding mechanism to fund these things. He can't go out and do this on his own.
I understand, but he's our police chief, and he's not recommending an override to fund his
Did you talk to him
departmental
separately?
needs. Yes, I did.
I see a great need for school resource officers in this town, and I can't imagine any police chief turning his back on funding after he's made a presentation to the Board of Selectmen to come up with some
I
funding.
don't think we should discuss the chief, what his, intentions are here. He has said
Yep.
that he's not recommending this at the moment. I don't believe he's turning his back on anything. I think he was asked to give a presentation, and he did.
Mhm.
I think it's, up to this board to decide how to do that, but he is our police chief, and it seems to me we should think about his suggestion as to how to fund it.
Then the alternative would be, instead of going for a Prop 2.5 override, put it on the special town meeting and see what we can get out of funds from within our budget.
There aren't any funds in our budget.
How do you know?
Well,
All right,
I look at the budget.
all right, all right. Why don't we hear from the other two selectmen, see if they have something to add to this conversation?
It sounds like both of you have talked to Mark Dufley about a potential override. And one of you is saying that he is supporting the idea and the other is saying not, so,
Were you saying that the chief supports the idea?
No.
oh, then I misunderstood.
I'm saying he came before us and he gave us what his needs were. It's up to us to find the sources of revenue. There's a lot of people in town asking for more police officers. Put it on the ballot and let them decide. And it's not gonna happen overnight. Once he receives these funding mechanisms, he has to go out and develop a program. It might be a year before it. But at least, I think when those parents stepped forward and they were so concerned about what happened at Sandy Hook, they were
Right.
quite possibly looking for something like this. If you have a trained police officer in one of those schools, odds are someone's not gonna attack it.
That's right. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Lynn, could you tell us how much it costs to have a special town election? That's the only thing I'm going back and forth in my head is, if it's voted down on the appropriate, at the special town meeting, and then we go to the special election.
It can be between $5,000 and $6,000 for a special
$6,000.
town election, for any election.
Thank you.
It costs the same pretty much for any election.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm just concerned because I think that in our minutes, I reviewed the minutes, and Mr. Dufley, our chief, said in there that he more or less didn't want to move forward this quickly. It seems like in his plan, I'd like to see a little bit more of a timeline thing, and I think that we need to strive to move forward on some of these positions, but we haven't informed anybody that we're going forward this quickly yet. And I think to get it forward at a town meeting and to get the override, because once we establish it, I don't really want to lose it.
All we're doing is backfilling. There's
Yeah, I know,
three
but I mean,
positions that have been cut.
I want to make sure that the town is going to support it, so I think we need to do some outreach here too in the process, so I don't want to hurry it from that point of view.
And if I could add to that, Mr. Chair, too, I think that there are a number of departments that have empty positions. I know the fire department is down a deputy, the DPW is down 2 members, the buildings and grounds only has 2 members, the school department's down 50 teachers. I don't really see this being very productive. I think you're gonna have, a food fight, if you will, and that's really not, I just don't see that as productive. Everyone needs bodies here.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Jack, I think you have a valid point that we should leave it to the voters, and after the Sandy Hook, it was a clear outcry from the residents and especially the school parents that we needed to do something, and we haven't done pretty much anything except change the monitors a little bit at the school, so I would support going forward with this idea of at least starting with just that one police officer until he lays out a final plan. Let the residents speak as to whether they want to support an additional police officer. They all cried out, no, I'm not being facetious about cried out, but it was the voice of the people that they wanted something done to protect the children. So I think if we at least attempt to fund one with the resident support. Let them make the decision, so I would support it.
I just want to say that I think all of us want to protect our children. I don't think that that's, you know,
Then vote yes.
Okay, that's enough from the
no,
audience,
that's
please.
not the equation.
All right. We have some mixed opinions here.
Yeah.
Mr. Ward, you want to add something else? before-
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think the school is got a big part of this, because they would be concerned about having a resource officer, and I'm fully supportive of that. I was just thinking that we need to have us sit down and look at this thing with maybe the school business manager, the town accountant, us, the chief. Don't forget the chief and the finance committee chairman, and say, okay, I just think we're rushing it at this point. That's all. I feel it's very important to move forward on a police officer here and detective at some point also, but we're rushing it.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is the second, to me, important item that we could have gotten the ball rolling without actually spending the money. The first was the fire department issue, where we were just going to say, we'll get the monetary mechanism, and we say, well, we gotta wait and we gotta discuss. And now here we are, wanting to give it to the voters to decide. Everyone in this town has said, we need at least an additional police officer. I think if you polled every single person at the post office tomorrow, I believe 99.9% of the people would say that we need more security in this town. So I don't think that it's a tug of war between departments. I think every single person, whether you're working in a department or if you're just a resident, that I think everyone knows that we need at least an additional police officer, and this would just get the ball rolling to let the residents say, yes, we're serious. We really do need additional security in this town, so.
Okay. Everybody's had their input. Is there a motion of some sort so that we can resolve this?
I think because of the time constraints, and we really should have voted this last meeting. It just crunches it up too much. I think I'll just withdraw my idea. And hopefully this board will be fully supportive of adding in a police officer maybe once a year to build it back up. That it won't fall by the wayside as it has the past 7 or 8 years.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your motion?
Yes.
All right. Next up is the agenda policy to include any Board of Selectmen member to be able to add items to the meeting agenda. And obviously, somebody initiated this.
I did.
Okay.
My concern here was that a selectman suggests or puts forward an agenda item for the selectmen's meeting, that it stays in the agenda. And twice over the past 3 or 4 months, this has had 2 agenda items that I had got deleted. And I think that when you are a duly elected selectman, that we ought to be at least bringing it forward to the meeting. And if the board, somebody on the board immediately sees that this is inappropriate, then they would make a motion to delete it, and it's seconded and voted off. That would be the process that would eliminate anything that was inappropriate suggested by a selectman. But the chairman and the vice chairman would not delete that. It would come up at our regular meeting. So what I was suggesting was, and I think hopefully there was a copy of the Board of Selectmen agenda policy in everybody's packet.
Yep.
Okay. I wanted to add an agenda or a sentence here that would allow a duly elected selectman has the right to place an agenda item on the selectmen's meeting agenda.
What items did you propose that were deleted, Dick, if you don't mind me asking?
Say that one again?
What items did you propose for a meeting that were deleted?
It was deleted on the second meeting after The chief of police was asking for a 3-year appointment, and we tabled it, and then the next meeting, I suggested it be put on, and it was put on initially, because I checked on Thursday, and then on Friday, I checked the agenda, and it was deleted. And our vice chair, I called him, and he said he was not putting it on, and I said I wanted it on, and it didn't get put on. Then this exact item that we're discussing now, I had put forward, I think, the last meeting in August or the first meeting in September, and it got deleted. So I just felt that any one of us, should have the right to put an agenda item on the agenda without worrying whether it gets scratched. That's it.
Jack, did you scratch those items from the meetings?
I did.
Okay, you want to
Just,
explain?
just for the, we've been trying to have a business meeting that runs a reasonable level and, you know, reasonable expectations, and that just muddied up the waters a little bit, because we had voted on it once. You know, that's all it was. My whole thing was, I think as members of the board, we should have the right to put things on, but call the chairman and let him know what you're doing. Don't just put it on, go to the town administrator or the administrative assistant to the town administrator. You know, vet it through the selectman, through the chairman, because he's running this meeting and trying to get it run on a reasonable level, and make it a business level.
That I agree with, because we have meetings sometimes that are endless, that after a couple of hours, you've lost everybody anyway. So there needs to be some control mechanism in place to make sure that that doesn't happen on a regular basis.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
may, I did not put anything in writing, but I too had requested an agenda item to be put on the agenda, and was told that the vice chair did not want that item on the agenda.
What was that item?
It was the reappointment of Chief Mix.
So we're dealing with the same topic,
Yes.
which was, through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
My thoughts is that it appears that for many, many, many years, the Board of Selectmen's chair has run efficiently, and you have to, if you look up the definition of what a chair does, it is their duty to be able to organize and structure the meeting. I agree that an item shouldn't be deleted, but I do think that we should continue to allow the chairperson to determine what items are on an agenda for a particular week, because as you've all witnessed, sometimes, tonight's pretty reasonable, but sometimes there's 15, 20 items on the agenda. And I think, my opinion is to keep it the way it is, because if it continues, then I think we should readdress it, but it appears that between Sarah and Dick, it was really just one very sensitive topic in the town that had been addressed. It's not that it wasn't addressed, it was being readdressed, so that's my thoughts.
Okay. Mr. Purcell, you have any thoughts on this?
The thought came to mind only that I don't have an answer. I have a question to myself. Is if a board member discusses the placement of an agenda item onto the selectmen's agenda, does that run afoul of the open meeting law? I'm not sure I know the answer.
With just the chairman?
Yeah. Yeah. As I say,
Maybe we ought to get an answer on
yeah,
that.
it's a question I can't answer myself right now.
Maybe we ought to get an answer on that.
Yeah.
And just table this until
And
we vote.
perhaps that's why
That might be the
the
answer.
matter, perhaps that's why the matter gets channeled to the, to the town administrator. I think I don't think you run afoul of the open meeting law or engage in serial communications if you're just if the town administrator is checking off. So I think you can perhaps accomplish the same thing, but in a different way. I'll find out, if legally, one selectman talking to the chairman about placement of an agenda item. Seems to me it shouldn't be against the open meeting law, but you know what? I don't know the answer.
Would everybody be in agreement? Let's get an answer on that before we proceed any further with this.
We haven't had a complaint yet, and I'm sure we would have.
Maybe we just invited one.
I'm not opposed to postponing this, but I do think that it is an issue because it has something to do with our transparency. If a selectman wanted to, they could use this as a strategy to not allow an issue that I wanted to have discussed come up, because now with the open meeting law, if it isn't on the agenda, then I don't have an opportunity to bring it up
Well,
in
you
a
certainly could
discussion.
You
know,
certainly
so-
could broach the subject in your selectmen notes.
If they're on the agenda.
Well, that was another thing. We had emergency meetings, so we didn't have a selectmen's notes for 2 meetings.
2 or
So
3
it
meetings.
kind of,
It was like 3
yeah.
meetings.
Again, I think we should table this because it appears that it was one topic that was a sensitive issue, and I just think that we should just feel out over the next few months if this problem continues, because it does sound like it was just one.
I would like to point out to you that at some point in the future, if you are in a position where you don't agree with the chairperson, it could be difficult if you had a situation, a sensitive issue that you wanted brought forward, whereas what I'm suggesting allows any of the selectmen to put an agenda item on there, and then if one of the other selectmen thinks right at the beginning of that issue it's inappropriate, all you gotta do is make a motion, you delete it, seconded, it's voted off. So it isn't that
Right, through
we
you,
wouldn't
Mr.
be
Chair.
discussing
It's not that I'm even thinking about a topic being inappropriate, and I hope to God that a topic isn't able to be addressed. I'm just more concerned about the amount of items on an agenda at any given week. I mean, if this was the case, that every single item that each one of us wants to be placed on the agenda, I could have 3 items. You could have 3 items. Mike might have 5. Sarah has 4. Jack has 3.
10.
My point is, if it becomes a rule that the chairman doesn't have discretion as to what goes on and what doesn't, then it's gonna dilute the efficiency of a meeting, because we're gonna have to rush through everything. I agree with you, Dick. I think it's inappropriate that a topic should be totally disregarded and not put on the agenda. All I'm saying is that I believe the chairman needs to be able to structure our meetings so we have ample time for, certain topics. That's all I'm saying. Because I agree with you. I think that every single board of selectmen should be heard as to what they want, discussed, that, they're representing the residents.
But you don't want to ensure that.
Well, yes, I am. I'm saying that a chairman should not have the right to eliminate an item that a board member wants on the agenda. All I'm saying is, it may have to be put onto the next meeting, is what I'm getting at. That's all I'm saying. I am not saying that I agree with that a chairman should be able to totally disregard a board of selectmen from putting something on the agenda. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay, Jim, you had something else you wanted to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, last year I spent a few months, or maybe it was the year before last, working in Sherburne. And the very first item on their meeting agenda, just as you have announcements, their very first item is an actual reading of the agenda. The chairman reads it, and then the second item allows for any changes to be made to the agenda. Most often, it's for maybe someone didn't show up or something to that effect. It's much more difficult to add something naturally under those circumstances than it is to subtract. But it didn't occur to me until now, listening to this discussion, that Sherburne has a mechanism that you might be interested in seeing whether it could work here or not. That is, it makes it onto the agenda, but you know, the first order of business is, okay, guys, is this what we're gonna do
Right.
or not? I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually
just throw
straight
that
out
out
of
there.
open meeting law.
It's what?
It's straight out of open meeting law,
Is it?
voting on the agenda, yeah.
Is it? It's the only place I saw do it, ever, but.
Okay. You know, I'm open to anything. Do you want Mr. Purcell to research
Yes,
the
please.
question, and then we can just bring this back up again?
Table it for tonight
Yep.
and move forward with a little more information next
So-
meeting.
So the two things that I'll do, I'll find out if a communication with the chairman on agenda items, one-on-one, runs afoul of the open meeting law. And the other thing is, I'll just get a sample Sherburne agenda, and
Excellent,
you can decide whether you like it or not.
excellent.
Okay,
Super.
thank you, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Approval of minutes of September 10th and September 24th, 2013. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes for September 10th. You want to take both?
Do we want to do them both together, or
But we have a lot of changes.
do you
Okay,
have a lot of changes, Dick?
all right, I'll include September 24th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Any comments? Questions, concerns? Recommendations? Changes? Hearing none. Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, Lauren. Thank you. Citizens' participation. Steve, Mr. Pratt, come on up.
Actually, this is an agenda item that wasn't really discussed under discussions relative to funding police personnel and capital projects. Capital project funding didn't really get discussed, and
You're absolutely right.
that's okay.
Would you like to discuss that?
Well, I think, yeah, we would.
Couple minutes?
Can we?
We can do it.
Game starts in like 10.
I'm not worried about the game. I gotta get some sleep before work. You can watch the game. I gotta go to sleep.
Okay, fine.
Okay, gents.
Sox playing tonight? Sox playing tonight?
Steve Pratt, Town Building Study Committee.
Dan Ryan, Town Building Study Committee.
Just want to give you a quick update. We've met, Collins Center is in town. They've met with various departments, heads, and get some feedback on our building needs. And so they can put together their analysis and recommendations. We've also met with their financial contact and discussed the Capital Building Stabilization Fund, the intended purpose behind it. I shared with them, and I also shared with the chairman and the vice chairman the model that I put together. You know, it's, if you want to share that with the other members of the Board of Selectmen, certainly do. It's intended to outline what was voted on in April 2011 and what we've funded for the last 3 annual town meetings, to do that and come up with a strategy to fund one of the projects, hopefully in this coming this fiscal year, at least start it, and, you know, again, based on, you know, recommendations. We do have an article for the special town meeting, which we submitted for the fire station, Central Fire Station and Training Center. I presume it still needs to be reviewed by bond counsel and others. We've also discussed with Mr. Purcell, and I also talked with Ms. Newt this evening about meeting with the financial department heads in the town, but also with Clark Rowell, financial advisor, and Rick Manley to talk about, you know, the idea of utilizing the Capital Building Stabilization Fund to support debt service of any bonding. So we want to start that, and we certainly want to have that in place before we go to the special town meeting in November. That's all I had.
Do we need permission from the board to do that, or meet with them?
In terms of talking with the financial, I did talk to, you know, Jim a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was, and when I talked to Paula tonight, I thought it'd be best that we go through Paula to Clark and Rick Manley, but I don't know if we need your permission for us to go do that. Since we're an advisory committee to you, we just want to make sure you're okay with us, going that next step. I mean, we did last time, but, we certainly want your permissions with it.
I think we originally gave you our permission to pretty much go do
Okay.
your thing, no matter, regardless.
And relative to that, the Collins Center also asked for permission to talk to Rick Manley too, and Clark Rowell as needed for their analysis.
My understanding, Mr. Chairman, is that, Paula is indeed the treasurer collector, but you go through the town administrator with that request.
Okay.
Which, yes,
In light of,
is the, is the answer. But if you want to talk about protocols and things, keeping the Board of Selectmen up to date and all that is terrific. The board weighing in on what tasks you're performing leading up to town meeting is all well and good, but, the protocol issue is you go through the town administrator on that.
Okay. Thank you.
I would support that. In light of all the recent changes, experience levels and everything else, I think it's important that you deal with Mr.
So-
Purcell.
So can they come before us at our next meeting? You think you might have all your ducks in order? It's 2 weeks, because it's getting pretty close to the special town meeting.
Drop dead date, yeah.
And then you'll have the cost of it, and,
Okay.
whatever the debt service might be.
Sure.
And that will allow you a little more outreach before that town meeting.
Okay.
True.
Oh, speaking of outreach, actually, Dan, you had mentioned, I had asked a couple of times in this meeting just for you guys to post your numbers on the town's website, and
Yes,
and you had expressed some concern that you didn't have the board's approval, but
correct.
the point is that is a public document. If it's the same document you used at town meeting a
Okay.
couple years back, it's a public document, so.
Okay.
I mean, it's,
So I have been keeping all the minutes on there. In fact, I went back because the ones that I had submitted to the clerk's office were not on there, so I put all those on. There's some good discussion and description in there too, for people to reference. But, I think part of the question was too, is if we do come up with materials, like we might create something. Is that what you were looking for? Like when you asked to understand the wraparound, we may not have anything that's written on that, but we could put something together.
say, we're
to
using retired
explain it.
debt service.
Sure, so if you're looking for
it's not
Barring that, we're
additional
gonna roll it
material,
over.
we
Yeah,
could do
it's
that.
not rocket science,
Okay.
but it is a term that,
But as we're representing the Board of Selectmen, the question was, did you need to review any material we choose to put on the website, or did you want to just give us blanket approval to put whatever materials we feel necessary for the Town Building Study Committee on as a board?
well, you had said you were going to use the same material you used it.
Well, that's one app, that's one
Right.
that's one
So
thing
that
we
one is
could do.
public record.
Right, that's one presentation, but do you want other materials? That was my question.
Anything.
Okay. As
I
long as
think
the board's okay with
not to
it.
impede the process, that we would encourage you to post that information. It's public information.
Okay,
Anything that's gonna be controversial, though, and cause a lot of heartburn, I think that the courtesy of a heads up, so that maybe we can take that under advisement before it goes out.
okay, sure.
Yeah, I know, we're not gonna do that. But, I think, for example, the presentation from the 2011, that was obviously public. Anything that we've discussed at our meetings, we have referenced in our minutes, and so they certainly would be there. And in fact, what we gave Tony, with the personal property new growth strategy model, that'd be another thing. It's just a 3-page document, but, it might give some, little backdrop, for folks to understand what the Capital Building Stabilization Fund is and how we were intending to fund it and how it could be utilized. So, and it's generic enough, it's not going to, cause any, heart palpitations for anybody, because there's stuff in there that's, it's very generic based. It's based on actual information, it's based on projections that are conservative, I believe, and, we'll do things like that. Okay.
The bottom line for me is, what's the debt service gonna be?
Yep.
And is the funding in place to support that debt service?
Right. And that's
So-
the
and
conversation we need
That's
to
what I'd like
have.
you to come back.
Yep, that's the conversation we need to have before the 22nd, so
Yeah.
that,
That's what we need Unibank for. Yep.
yep.
Other members of the board have any questions, comments, or anything? Jim, do you, all set? You square?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the update, guys.
Okay. Okay, let me reopen citizens' participation again. Anybody like to come up and discuss something? Anything? No, you can't. You already had your shot. No, go ahead, go ahead. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, tops.
Steve Pratt, 16 Weston Street. On September 15th, which was a Sunday, Carver was the host of the Copters in Cars event on South Meadow Road. And, you know, quite honestly, it impacted our neighborhood all day long. Cars were driving up and down the street trying to find parking spaces because the Carver Police Department closed the entrance. And it's been reported that over 6,000 cars were entering the airport, and the airport changed the parking so that all cars had to go into and out of Gate 6 only. They weren't allowed to use it. And it impacted South Meadow Road to the point where I believe, you know, it certainly was a safety issue. You know, people were backed up from Plymouth for hours. And in fact, it was difficult to get out of our own neighborhood.
I got a lot of grief for that. Took my wife 45 minutes to get into Dunkin' Donuts and get a cup of coffee.
Right, that's a lot of grief. Get a Keurig. But anyways, my only point is, if this is an event that's gonna occur next year, and it sounded like it might be, it's a very good event. It's a fundraiser for the Jimmy Fund. You know, they were only charging $10 a car to get into this, and so there were a lot of people that showed up, and it was a beautiful Sunday, if you all remember. But we need to have a better understanding as the impact to the town, and we really need a seat at the table, you know, with that decision making, because it really was an unfortunate thing. It was not coordinated well, and even the event organizers have acknowledged that.
I was just gonna suggest, Steve, that we have a representative to the airport commissioners, and that we should go right to them right away and make the complaint and explain it.
Yeah.
Because they need to make the
Yeah, I mean,
corrections.
you know, I've been to other events. I've been to the Adirondack Balloon Festival in New York, and they closed down the regional airport for 3 days and just have balloons. And, you know, I understand, you know, it's an operational airport and everything like that, but the impact it had, I mean, I can't even imagine if an ambulance or anything had to come through South Meadow Road. I mean, there were people walking on both sides of the street, cars were parked. It was not a good thing. It was not a good thing. And even though it was a good event,
They acknowledged that. There was an op-ed in the
Yes.
Patriot Ledger
Yep.
and everything, so.
So I just wanted to, you know, bring attention, and thank you, Dick. You know, certainly going to the commissioners would be doing it. So thanks.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. The commission is it the Plymouth Airport Commission is the proper title? I don't want to.
First Thursday of the month, I think.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for them, but there was a meeting, and they were totally in shock at the overwhelming response to that, and as far as I know, that they said that it was too big of an event to hold
Right.
at the Plymouth Airport, so I do not believe that we are going to see it again, but I can tell you, because my Ed, is on that commission, and that they are well aware, and that if they do plan on having it again, they are going to be more proactive in working with us, but I do not believe they're gonna hold that venue again.
Right.
But that is just discussion purposes, do not hold me to that.
It was just a shock
Things could
Sunday
change.
morning.
Yes.
Let's get the pickets ready outside Miss Marone's house.
Thanks.
Hey, I've had picket signs before. I can handle it.
Any other citizens' participation? Come on now, making this too easy. All right, everybody must be happy then. We must be doing a good job, Jim.
It's the game.
Oh, it's the board, Mr. Chairman.
No, it's
All
the
right,
game.
town administrator notes. Moving on.
I have a few. Come on, Jim, you can do this. There it is. Mr. Chairman, some time ago, we talked about the interaction between our Animal Control Department and the State Department of Agriculture and their health branch. Be advised that the Department of Agriculture is accepting the nominations of Kathy Seeley and Alana Barry as animal inspectors for the town. Interestingly, they don't have an online version of the barn book, that report that has to be done, and we're awaiting for a reprint of paper copies of the barn reports. The state is conditioning their acceptance on our completion of the barn books by December 31, 2013. They have agreed that if there's any further delay in the issuance of the barn books, that they'll move that day out, those dates out. But failure in this regard, not for any fear of, a state agency sanction or anything like that, but, for public health purposes, failure to put that bond report together is not an option. We're going to get that done one way or another. But at least the state has relented and has made it, Kathy and Alana eligible to perform that work. Mr. Pratt took one of my items earlier by saying that the Collins Center, a building study is underway. Representatives have been in town, and I'll leave that there. The health insurance audit is underway as well. Representative Longfellow Insurance met with the Finance Committee 8 days ago.
Are we going to include the Collins Center on our agenda for our next meeting?
I don't know that. I defer to the Collins Center.
Okay. I think they've talked to everybody else, but they haven't talked to the board yet, so maybe we can get that right. We certainly need their recommendations to go ahead with these articles anyways, so.
Got it. Okay. The health insurance audit is underway. The Longfellow Group, I did a reference check on them, and in fact, the principal undertaking the study is a very credible person. So I'm looking forward to the outcome. He is the lead person. Apparently said at the Finance Committee meeting 8 days ago that listen, if there's anything political about this, that's your deal. And these are my words. That's your deal. I just present the numbers, and I'm pleased.
That's all we want.
I'm pleased. I'm very pleased with that approach. I really am. We have for various locations in the town, Mr. Chairman, some roof and HVAC bids that were open last week. We're taking them under advisement. I think we'll be fine under the procurement laws of the state, but organizationally, I need to tell you this, especially when you're looking for a new town administrator. You need to be sure that the new town administrator has procurement experience, Massachusetts procurement experience, and is it's already on the agenda, okay, and is willing to teach, the rest of the organization. There's certainly a lot of power in the collective energy and intellect of the group. I think we really need, instead of centralizing that, to one point or 2 points, we need to spread that knowledge around. So just bear that in mind when you're looking for a town administrator. I say that because I think we'll be okay, but there were some problems with the bid form for those particular projects. I don't think we're going to have to scrap them and rebid, but we've done that in one other department already this year, so it's possible that we do it again. Also, Mr. Chairman, we've received proposals for the construction of a solar energy production facility at the former Carver landfill. We opened them today. I mean, as you can imagine, they're huge and they're technical. And Jack Hunter is looking for a couple of volunteers, perhaps from the board, as readers of those proposals, and possibly to sit in and interview the companies again on what their project proposals are. You know, it's technical, it's big stuff, and Jack doesn't want to do it alone, and I don't blame him. So he asked me today if anyone from the board is willing to take some time and sit in and assist in that process.
That must be fairly urgent.
I don't know that there's any urgency to it, but I won't be able to help him.
The landfill's not going anywhere.
The landfill's not going anywhere, is right. I have to be very selective about what I take on now if you want me around for the handoff and for the, more particularly for the special town meeting. I'm down to about 100 hours, in fact, just a little bit less. So I'm down to 2 days a week now, and so I have to be selective about what I take on. I just can't pitch in and help them out because some of you, I know at least 1 or 2 board members have had a keen interest in this particular project. I'm starting at the bottom of the learning curve, and for me to do all that reading and get back up, I'm burning hours that I can't afford to do. So that's why we thought that maybe a member or 2 of the board, might be interested in pitching in here. So I'll leave it there.
Happy?
You?
Sure. I'd be more than happy to pitch in.
Okay.
I'll,
Great.
Having
Sarah
been
and Mike?
involved in 1 or 2 of them, I'll step forward with
Okay,
Sarah and
that's terrific. Thank you.
throw our names in the hat, if that's okay with the rest of the members of the board. I know all of you got projects going on, so,
I think that's fine. It's good.
okay.
Thank you.
As long as there's a couple of us.
Yeah, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Selectmen notes. Any volunteers? Kick it off.
I will.
Okay.
Just real quick, I will be starting my office hours up again on November 2nd. I will be holding them at Cornerstones on Saturdays at noontime, change of venue. So come on down and visit and share your thoughts on everything going on in town. And also, are we gonna be putting it on the agenda soon as to what is going on with the town administrator
I'm going to give you an
search?
update on the selectmen's notes.
Isn't that exciting? Thank you. And that's it.
Very good. Dick?
I wanted to mention that this weekend, October 12th and 13th, the Cape Cod Cranberry Growers Association is having its 10th annual Cranberry Harvest Celebration, co-sponsored by the A.D. Makepeace Company of Ocean Spray. The event promises to be fun for the whole family. The celebration will be at the A.D. Makepeace facilities on Tyhonet Road in Wareham. I also asked if Jack would just give us a quick update on the screening committee.
Before we get into that, can you describe the festival? Because Jim was asking me earlier about it, and I have never been to it, to be honest with you.
I'm all eyes and ears, as you well know, on this cranberry stuff. I come from the hills of Central Mass. We don't do cranberries there, so.
The A.D.
Been fascinating.
Makepeace Company is a very progressive company, huge company. They're involved with real estate development, business development, earth development, and agriculture and cranberries. They have in the range of 2,000 acres of cranberries. They're the largest grower of cranberries in the country, in the world. They take it upon themselves to provide information and an opportunity for people to learn. I've been driving by their facilities all week. They are really dressing it up. It's beautiful. They've got huge parking lots with shuttle buses. Nobody parking on the roads. They're very, very well organized. They have tour buses going out around the bogs to observe the cranberry harvest, and they have cranberry growers and knowledgeable people on those buses explaining what's going on. And they have many other activities on the campus that are going on at the same time for family and kids and the works. So if you wanted to learn something, and I don't know what the entrance fee is, but it's not exorbitant. The parking is free. They're trying to do outreach to our neighbors and towns and people. So we love for people to go.
Does that give you a little bit of an explanation, Jim?
Some I've been,
And I'm sure there's tons of
I've been
people out
soaking it
there.
all in, since I've been here.
Yeah, there's-
Seriously.
I'm sure there's tons of people out there that are probably not aware of the extensive amount of activities that they provide. There's also food and refreshment there, Dick, and
Yep, and cranberry products.
I'm shocked.
Go figure, yeah.
Cranberry Festival, I'm shocked.
Cranberry relish on your hot dog.
Where'd our Subway guy go?
There you go.
We get him some cranberry sauce for that sandwich I was talking about. Okay. All right, you all set, Dick?
Yes.
Sarah?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank all the people who came to Arts on the Bog this past weekend. That's an annual event that it appears when we have it or when it's hosted, it rains every year, and so it did again this year. But it was a very light rain. And for the weather, it was an excellent turnout. I'm just a visitor myself when I go there. It's hosted by Dot and Jack Angley. But it's a terrific cultural event in town, and I think a lot of times people don't realize how many artists there are in our town and in the region. It was a terrific turnout, lots of new artists, and good food and music. So, and don't forget, the farmers market runs through the last Saturday in October, and that's also a terrific event in town.
Jack?
Well, as promised, I'll give you a little update on the screening committee. We met on September 17th. I was elected the chairman and Paul Johnson's recording secretary. We heard from Craig Corbo. He came down and gave us a little lesson on the open meeting law.
Excuse me, Jack. Speaking of which, I'm going to recuse myself now for the rest of the meeting.
And Richard from the Collins Center was in town, and he went through the process of, the 4 steps. That was on the 17th. Last week, we met just briefly. Richard had sent me some questions to answer. Asked a question of the candidates, and I had some from the last time when Rick LaFawn was selected, and then John Carter also brought some questions from his personnel division. So our next meeting is going to be tomorrow night at 7 o'clock downstairs in meeting room 4, but we'll be going into executive session. I got a packet. I haven't opened it up yet. It's got 24 sets of resumes in it. I felt that I should open it up in the executive session. The Collins Center will be here, and we're moving forward.
What else, Jack? Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you.
A couple of items. Just reiterate, this is a holiday weekend coming up. There's going to be a lot of events taking place. King Richard's Fair is open all 3 days. We have the Cranberry Festival. Sunday will be the Farmers Market, so there's going to be a lot of traffic. What am I forgetting? Edaville Railroad, I'm sorry, how can I forget Edaville Railroad? So again, there's just going to be a lot of traffic. Watch out for the kids, just be careful. And enjoy the weekend. Hopefully the weather will hold up. I would ask all of you to keep all of our servicemen and women in your thoughts and prayers as they service around the world and protect the lifestyle that we enjoy. And that's pretty much my notes for the night. We're going to go into executive session in preparation for contract negotiations with proposed supervisory union and non-union personnel.
Mr. Chairman, I think with the non-union personnel, we really should have named who it was, so we should strike that and just have executive session in preparation for contract negotiation with proposed supervisory union. I think it lacks specificity. It could be an open meeting law violation. So I think if we just crossed out that last section.
Yeah. With supervisory union personnel.
Yes.
Okay.
And then whatever we need to discuss, we can put on the next
Okay.
agenda.
And not return to open session. So thank you all for being here tonight. God bless you, God bless the town of Carver, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.